Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we are checking out Alien 3 for the Super NES.
Yes, another Alien 3 game.
But Jim, it's arguably the best one.
Correct. And with that, I would say this is borderline. Maybe falls into that hidden gem realm. Actually deserves that credit. Possibly.
It was a little hidden gem for me after going from the other two games to this.
They actually tried with this one, so let's get into it and show you why.
Damn it.
So, the 1993 port was developed by Probe Software and published by Acclaim. And yeah, it's another port. It's one of the last ports, so it's a really different game from what we had before. What makes it stand out? Well, we're about to tell you. Mostly. Alright, the graphics. Surprisingly good package, especially considering that all the levels, color really wasn't a priority, but when it comes to an Alien license, you kind of accept that. It's going to be darker, it tries to be more moody, it really tries to be like the movie for once. And I gotta give credit, like, there's cutscenes here that are very movie specific, there's some real presentation. So the way Ripley and the aliens all kind of look, like, along with the backgrounds, it just all fits together, but everything that's supposed to stand out does stand out. And also there's cool lighting effects in the backgrounds, there's alarms going off, there's weather effects, and there's even the tiniest little bits of parallax scrolling, so that's nice to see something different for once. Now, you don't get the Mode 7 or anything like that. They didn't go that big in the dirt with the Super NES hardware, but for a port like this, it's pretty nice. So Brian gave it an 8 and I gave it a 7. When it comes to beer, I'll give it 1 beer because it could have done a few more visual tricks, I think. Alright, the sound. Again, this is a really good package. So the quality... Okay, so all these games have pretty good music, and this game's no different. If I had to give it a downer, there's not as many music tracks in this game as you would get in, say, the NES or the Genesis versions, but the ones you get here are definitely more theme-specific to the game itself, and they're well composed and they do sound good. The sound effects, luckily, are not overmodulated, they blend in very well, they're not grating on the ears, but they still get the point across of what they're trying to do. Between the alien screams and the sound effects of your weapons, it's good stuff. And also there's a little bit of voice work here, both with the people you try to save, and, you know, for whatever reason, the aliens all have a scream too, so that's cool, and it's kind of like what you would have heard in the movies. And there's one nice little hidden piece of audio with, I mean, it's not from the right movie, but you give me some freaking Bill Paxton on the Game Over screen, I'm gonna take some Bill Paxton on the Game Over screen.
Game over, man!
But besides that, we both gave it 8s. It's definitely a great package, and I'm just gonna give it 1 beer for the lack of varied music.
The control. Here's one thing that I appreciate more than anything else when it comes to controlling a game, is when a company decides to use every face button and every button available to its full advantage. And this game does that perfectly. So on the Super NES, you have the Y button, which can be used for your flamethrower, the X for your machine gun, and the A for the grenades. B can jump, and then when you hit L and R, you have the ability to swap between the weapons, but you don't even have to use this to change weapon. You can use this just to see how much ammo you have available. If you hit select, your motion tracker gets used, so you really can utilize the whole thing, and it's very intuitive. It almost makes you go, oh, this is what it's like to be able to use every weapon without having to switch between. The shooting and moving around feels really fluid. The jumping can be a little goofy. Like, you kind of do a moon jump almost, and controlling it on some of these tight platforms can be a little bit of annoying because I missed a couple of them. But there's not as much platforming, so it's not bad. The only real knock I had is, for some reason, when you hit down, you go into a crouch animation as opposed to just holding it down. It's a minor thing that you can get used to, but it always threw me off, and I'd find myself holding down unnecessarily and sometimes taking hits because I didn't anticipate needing the crouch. But other than that, I absolutely love the control layout, and the inputs are all pretty much perfect. So when it comes to scores, we both gave it 9s. If it wasn't for the kind of goofy jumping and the crouching, it would have been a perfect control scheme. When it comes to beer, I'm not even going to add any. I always applaud a game that really utilizes controllers well. The gameplay. Unlike the previous Alien 3 games, this is not just an action-based shooter platformer with a time limit. Number 1, and thank God, they got rid of the time limit. This game is more of a mission-based open level, so in every level, as soon as you start, you will notice a very large computer, you go up and interact, and you will see a whole list of missions. There's roughly 6 to 8 missions per stage, and there's about 6 stages in the game. Now, you can do these missions in any order, and to be honest, I found a little glitch where you can actually do some of the missions while you're on other missions. So, some of the missions will have you doing things like destroying alien eggs or a very specific aliens, while others will be rescuing survivors, and you can even repair computers. Some repeat in later stages, but they do try to vary it, and what is nice is, unlike the other games, all your items for ammo and health can get respawned throughout the level. So while the levels are much bigger than the previous titles, you can keep going back and getting more health and getting more ammo. The other nice part is if you do find yourself getting lost, when you look at the computer, it will actually show you where you're at and where you need to go. So you don't need to have quite as much memorization, and all the doors and levels have a name to them. So it's much easier to navigate, even though it is a much larger level. If I had one complaint, it's that these stages can take 20 to 30 minutes each time. And I know it's a complaint to say you have more game here, but at some point you almost just want to move on to the next level. The actual interactions with the aliens is handled much better because they are not zooming in off screen at you. There are still a shit ton of them and you will take a lot of damage. But what this game really maximizes is, instead of just having super quick reflexes, is utilizing the right weapon for the right moment. When you're in these little tunnels or ducts, you really should be using a flamethrower. I made the mistake of trying to use pulse rifles and I got hit all the time. So it's a completely different experience, and it's a little bit of a slower pace, but there's still just as many enemies. And you will have different color-coded enemies depending on the stage of life they're in. So you got face huggers, these little runners, and then the full-grown xenomorphs, as well as a few variations. The game is a lot of fun, if not a little repetitive by the end, but is a breath of fresh air compared to the other Alien 3 games. So when it comes to scores, I gave it an 8 and Jim gave it a 7. I thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough with this, and Jim, he liked it, but just not as much as me. When it comes to beer, I'll add 1 because, yeah, some of these levels can wear out their welcome, but still, it's nothing you can't overcome.
So, originality. Wow, there actually is some this time. So, first off, you gotta give points because it's the first Alien 3 game to have more than one real mission type, so that's a plus. Also, it's the first one to really tie into the movie it's licensed off of. That's nice. And also, just in the grand scheme of things, there's not that many run-and-gun platformers from this era with such an emphasis on different mission types and stuff like that. And of course, you have to juggle different weapons for different enemies, which is always nice too. So, yeah, surprising amount of something new to see from this one.
Jim, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Bill Paxton.
And Bill Paxton. So, we both gave it 6s. Maybe we should even bump it up more for Bill Paxton, but yeah, when it comes to beer, we'll just add 1. No, it's got Bill Paxton. You don't need any beer.
The replayability I can keep short because you do have a lot more flexibility in the order you do things, and you have no time limit. So you're really going to take the time to explore and do things the way you want them. Now, sure, there is no true different ending, but I love the fact you can go in such a different path, and that added a lot of points for us, because every time I go back and try and do different levels, I never do them in the same order, and I try to then test myself to see how fast can I do them. See, it's nice when you don't have to have a time limit, and then you just find naturally ways to get the levels done faster. So, when it comes to scores, I gave it a 5 and Jim gave it a 4. There's not a ton here, but you will want to keep coming back because you'll have the ability to take your time. When it comes to beer, I'm not even going to add any. Alright, Jim, so this time, I I think we did find a hidden gem.
It's surprisingly good and deep. I mean, like an actual game with more than one thing to do 20 times.
Yeah, like it can get a little repetitive. I'll say that.
Can't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, but controls great. The gameplay is fun, and you never get bored with just trying to do one thing. It is nice, like even if the things are very menial, it's nice. Like okay, I just got to repair his computer, as opposed to let me just save this guy in this one spot he's always at. It is kind of cool to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty shocked. It's nice to see. It could have easily been another lazy port, but they really went above and beyond with this one, I think.
Like I said, I had no hope for this game when I first started playing it because I just finished the other two, and it was a bit of a shocker.
Underrated license game in the grand scheme of things.
For sure, yeah. So when it comes to scores, I gave it an 8, Jim gave it a 7. It's clearly above average. How much you like it really depends on how deep you get into the game, and when we combine all of our scores, it's a 7.7. Clearly the best of these Alien 3 ports that we've been talking about. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. I have no idea how much it actually costs. I would say you could go as high as like maybe $25 if you really want to splurge on it. I'm not saying go much crazier than that, but Jim's looking up the price now.
Yeah, you kind of, 23. Actually, there's not a ton of listings. Yeah, no, it's between like
so in the 20s, maybe
20 to $30.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. It is fun, but you can always emulate it first to really be sure.
Smart.
Yeah. So with that, we want to say, let us know what you guys think. Have you played it? What do you think is the best version of Alien 3? And with that, we want to say have a good night, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
When it comes to beer pairing, I'm going to go with the Tired Hands Alien Church IPA. This is a delicious 7% New England style IPA that has a lot of complexity. It's juicy, it's bitter, it's not boring, and it's much like this game. So if you're lucky enough, grab a couple cans, sit back, and enjoy this one. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.